I don't know. I couldn't let it go without me saying something. So let me give some context to why I feel this way, and I'll tell you who I am. So I'm Ashley Adams. I'm the founder and CEO of Black Prana Yoga Magazine and Black Prana Yoga and Pole. Happy to be sitting in the studio right now. One of the biggest things that I have done in the past, I don't know, a decade or so that I've been teaching is yoga teacher training, and I'm proud to say that we have trained at this point that at least 4,500 teachers have come through our training in some capacity, and we've graduated at minimum, let's say 2,000 people or so. In that, 95% of them are Black women, and I am extremely proud of that particular number. I am extremely proud of the fact that it was something that we were able to do, and that we're able, thank you, and that we're able to continue and connect with students and those who want to be students in that way. I'm proud of my team. I am proud of my family who supports me in doing this. Y'all know that this project takes a village and continues to take a village to for me to be able to be at my best and share this thing that has given so much to me. So there's context for how I fit in this picture and what I do on my end of the spectrum in my little corner of the world, if you will, right? So there's that. And if you are a part of those students that I have taught or have had the opportunity to go through yoga teacher training with me, I would appreciate it if you put up a purple heart in the comments so folks know that you're there. Actually, take that back. Put up a black heart in the comments. I would totally appreciate that. Or the fist emoji. I would totally appreciate that to let people know that, like, we out here for real, for real. So with that being said, I wanted to give some important context for where this comes from for me. So one of the biggest reasons why I started doing what I was doing, why I wanted to create the magazine, one, thank y'all, I appreciate that. Why I also have the studio as well, because being a business owner is hard and it's stressful and it's a lot, right? But the reason that I keep going and keep doing this is because of what I saw today. So here is what I saw for context of where this is coming from for me and wanting to give this particular lecture and wanting to share in this way. There was an article that was on Yoga Journal's feed today, or that came across me today. It may have been written a few days ago, I'm not sure. And it was of a Black yoga teacher that was sharing her experience as a teacher and some of the challenges that she had experienced. And many of them that she spoke about, I can totally relate to. You may have seen it. Her name is Dr. Chelsea. I am blanking on her last name. Let me see if I can lay eyes on it so I can give you that context, because I want to make sure I give full context for where this is coming from. Okay. Dr. Chelsea Jackson, Roberts, PhD. So that was the article that I came across today. It popped up in my feed. And this is what is prompting this talk, if you will. So in the blog post that they put up about her experience as a Black yoga teacher in particular, some of the things that I could really relate to, talking about having this awareness of who you are in relation to the other folks that are in your class. And I'm not talking about just like whatever their life experiences are. I'm not talking about your life experience. I'm talking about at base level. I look at you, you look at me, and we look like two different people. We clearly come from two different backgrounds. And in my case, I am not referring to, I'm going to throw a haymaker here, but y'all know how I get down in the world. I'm not referring to those who have the ability to be racially ambiguous. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you walk into a room and you can clearly see that I'm of a different race than you are or another person in class. Okay. So she writes about her experience, and in this experience, some of the things that she mentioned was kind of the background noise that can play in your head as a Black yoga teacher. All right. So some of that noise, I will speak to mine, is, am I being judged on the way that I talk? Do I need to code switch in this moment to make sure the class is more comfortable with their experience of me, not my experience as a teacher or even as a human being? am I required to play a particular playlist in order to accommodate the class's feelings, even though it is not a place that I would typically teach from and or experience my own yoga practice, or even if it's the class that I would necessarily like to be in? Am I creating an environment where I am being inauthentic to self in order to serve the masses that show up for my class? These are thoughts that I have run through at any given moment just when I'm teaching a 60-minute asana class. In addition to that, let's take it a little bit further. When you walk into the door or you walk into the class and it is either your first class and no one knows that it's you, okay? Or you have brand new students that come in. Thank you for that. Yes, I appreciate it. It helps me feel seen and heard in this moment as I share some of my own experience. When you are new to the studio, right? But the studio has been established for a while, but you may be the only brown face that exists on that schedule, because there are some places where that is a real thing. And you walk into the class and you happen to be there before the class gets there, and people walk in, they walk in and they see you and they turn around and walk right back out the door. Or any of the plethora of experiences that can come along with being the difference in the particular space. Okay. So for those of you who are just joining us, to give a quick recap, I'm Ashley Adams. I'm the founder and CEO of Black Prana Yoga Magazine and Black Prana Yoga and Pole. I am in the studio right now, and what we're talking about is diversity and inclusion in the wellness space, in particular, being a yoga teacher versus a Black yoga teacher, because there's a difference. So, for those of you who can relate to some of these experiences, please share this video, because I really would like other people to kind of hear this in this way. And this is prompted from a story that I read, a blog that I read, a post that I read, I should say, with another Black yoga teacher's experience in Yoga Journal, just to give context. So that particular context, to take it a little bit further beyond being a teacher, there's also a piece of this that is very interesting when you are a manager or you are a studio owner. In my case, I happen to be both. So I've had personally people walk through the studio. They do not expect to see me to begin with as the teacher. Okay. As the teacher. All right. So that's one. Two, I've been asked, can I speak to the manager? I'm the manager. Can I speak to the owner? I'm the owner. Neither of those answers were satisfactory to that particular person. And that's okay, right? I'm at 41 years old. I am deeply accustomed to that particular experience. Okay, so whatever. That part aside, y'all tap the screen and put up some hearts so I can make sure you can still hear me. My connection's being weird. Just to give some context for what my experience has been versus what somebody else's is. All right, so what got me on this rant, so to speak, today, or wanting to share this particular thing, was the comment sections in the blog. So I went through the comments, and this is something that I speak about quite a bit when I teach this lecture. I went through the comments, and what I saw was a roundabout way, probably not purposefully, but a roundabout way to dismiss Dr. Jackson's experience as she had it and as she explained it. And here's what's so insidious about the wellness space, because people in yoga in particular, we take the one love mentality, all is one, and don't get caught up in the chitta-vritis or the turning of the mind and so on and so forth. We take that knowledge that we have as yoga teachers and we superimpose that on top of the humanity of other folks. And in that, we inadvertently dismiss people's experience that they have had. For instance, one of the comments I saw that really stuck out to me, that pushed me in this direction to talk about it, was, well, people are coming to class and the only person that's worried about the teacher being Black is the teacher. That's not how that works. That's not the reality for many of us. Then I saw another comment. The person did kind of allude to the fact that they were of a different race and or ethnicity. That's what I gleaned from the comment. that in their experience, maybe it is that enough teachers from the Black community, so to speak, are are applying to be teachers. Now, for me, right, for me, there's a personal affront that's there, and here's why. The personal affront is my job for the past however many years has been to make sure there is a space in place that is for us, that we can become teachers, that makes it accessible for us to become teachers from a financial standpoint, in order for us to have representation in the space. Now, I gave you the number earlier that we're almost 45. Actually, let me back that up. We are at about 5,000 people or so that have come through teacher training in some capacity. So the idea that there isn't work being done on that end, I can personally attest to the work that's being done on that end. Yes, I wanted to give words to this experience because I knew, as God is my witness, that I was not the only one that saw that article and felt that friction between the practice and our yoga existence that gives so much to us, to our reality of being a Black person that exists in this space. And here's the deal. For us, we do not get to decouple those things. I don't have the luxury of just being a yoga teacher. I wholeheartedly wish that I did. Now, what happens, and that is hard in this space, is you'll have people to come back to you and say things. Just don't worry about it. That'd be dope if I could get down in the world that way. Me not worrying about it puts me in a position where I could potentially be unsafe mentally, emotionally, or physically. And this is all from just teaching a 90-minute asana, 60-minute asana class in a space that I may or may not be familiar with. In a space that I am extremely comfortable with, that I partner with in my Tampa Bay area, I just had to check somebody or speak out loud about somebody regarding my earrings. That the comment that they said about them wasn't all that hot. That it wasn't okay. So, with that being said, and this is in the year of Beyonce 2024. Okay? So, this idea that we're going to pretend as though this isn't an issue for people is bizarre to me. Bizarre to me. So, the other comment that I saw that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way was, that made me feel some type of way, was walking away with a sense of everyone in the comments, not everyone, let me correct. There were many folks in the comments who were spending the majority of their time attempting to compare their experience with her experience, thus again dismissing her experience. We all know, we're all grown enough to know that two things can be true at the same time. Two things can completely be true at the same time. It does not mean that you're wrong. It does not mean that she's wrong. It does not mean that I'm wrong. How three things can be true at the same time. I could have the experience of something that is true for me, and that can be okay. That right there is more than enough. I don't have to give an additional preamble of caveat or pre and or post-amble or caveat regarding my experience of that situation. I am not required to do that. The other part of this that is so hard to get folks to understand when we talk about diversity and inclusion, when we talk about equity, when we talk about all of these things, is that what folks on the periphery, yeah, that's good. That's a good one. We'll use that word. What folks on the periphery, on the outside, get to do is they get free reign to talk about this as though it's this esoteric experience. While I think I'm okay in this, and y'all put up some hearts and let me know if I'm off, let me know in the comments if I'm off base. They get free reign to talk about this in this esoteric way, whereas we are experiencing that as you are questioning my humanity. You are asking me to validate who I am as a human being so you can feel better about it. So you can feel as though you aren't a part of the problem. Because yoga, we have a problem. Much like the rest of the country. This idea that yoga is this escape where everybody else, where everything else in this space is not touched by the outside world is absolute nonsense. It is absolute nonsense. And you are doing people that look like me an injustice by pretending as though it doesn't exist. These are some of the reasons that people don't come back to class. If you don't see, I'll back that up. You may live in an area that does not have much diversity. However, there's black folks just about everywhere you go. If there can be black people in Iowa, I promise you, in your town, there's probably some there too. I just want to just throw it out there real quick. I promise there's probably somebody out there that looks like me that's in your area. And there's nothing to be said. There's something to be said about making an effort for that person to feel equally as included and or welcome in your class as anybody else that comes in. Okay, so here's another one for you. What I took away from those comments was this, is people who are typically positioned as the main character in a story get super fucking tight when they're no longer the main character in the story. Don't know how to handle when they are not the center of attention. And yoga in particular in the Western world, which is what I'm referring to here, yoga in particular in the Western world, when anyone else is highlighted other than who we've been told is the main character, people get super uncomfortable and don't know how to deal. I also walked away with a feeling of, because someone said in the comments something to the effect of, well, you know, kind of like I'm a yoga teacher too, and I didn't have this experience, yada, yada, yada. That comparison doesn't do anybody any good. It just means that her experience wasn't your experience, but there needs to be space for both of those things. All right, so let's get in a little bit further. Let's dig in a little bit further. And I want to give some context for the wellness space in general and why we say things about it being on that bullshit. And yoga's not exempt from that, and us pretending otherwise is not helping any damn body. So our relationship to wellness as Black folks is very different than people of other races, I would think, in the US. Let's talk about it in the context of the United States. So, because I can't give you other context because that ain't where I live. So to give some historical context for racism in health and wellness, understanding the historical context in race and wellness is really critical so we can reorganize and so we can recognize and address like some of the systemic problems that have existed over the years, and how we kind of got to this place where we're real smooth, where the establishment, it can be real smooth about dismissing, because the feeling is that we're so far from this particular history, right, that I'm going to run down. So this is modern era. So So in the, let's talk colonial era. So enslaved individuals were denied access to healthcare and well-being, treated as chattel property rather than human beings. This legacy has had a lasting effect on racial disparities in healthcare. So through segregation in the Jim Crow era, racial segregation extended to healthcare facilities and services, making quality care largely inaccessible for Black Americans. I want to give you full context for this story. My mother was born in 1957. Okay. My grandmother has 6 children. Of those 6 children, all right, my youngest aunt is the only one that was born in a hospital. The reason is because, now granted, I live in the South, so I want to throw that out there too to give a piece of the story. The reason is she was the only one by the time that my grandmother had her that she was allowed to go to the hospital that was close enough for her to get there. Otherwise, the only black or colored or Negro hospital was 45 minutes to an hour away from where I live in my small little town. To give context. So before people get out here on Beyonce's internet and get real hot to trot about how long ago that was, we are talking about my mother. We were talking about my mother in relation to her youngest sibling, and they were all born at home because that's what their option was. So we want to talk about racial disparities in access to healthcare. Okay, this is where we're at. Now, going 1932 to 1972, I'm going to repeat those numbers one more time for the cheap seats. 1932 to 1972 includes the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in Negro males is a notorious example of unethical research on black men, further eroding the trust in the medical system. Essentially, they were given this and weren't treated for it. So when you question why your father, brother, uncle, grandfather, what have you, doesn't necessarily trust the healthcare system, well, from 1932 to 1972, once again, this was the BS that was happening. So then, we get to desegregation, civil rights, and all of those things taking place. However, these things did not change the healthcare system. These things did not repair the disparities that already existed within the healthcare system. Did not repair the discrepancies that existed within the socioeconomic existence of those folks that were within that system. It didn't change any of that. Did not change any of that. All right, so let's fast forward. So late 20th century now. So disparities in wellness and in access, the racial disparities continue with having access to healthcare facilities. So for the longest time, it was like, you can't come at all. Don't come here. Then it was like, let me force you to jump through 1,001 hoops in order to be able to attend this health club and to participate in anything that we have going on that remotely resembles wellness. As we continue on, marginalized communities have very limited opportunities, have very limited options, and have very limited access. Black communities have very limited access to what you would call your run-of-the-mill health club and or wellness services. So we continue forward to the 21st century. So wellness disparities and access continue. They include the wellness industry has been criticized for cultural appropriation. So you want our rhythm, but you don't want our blues. Microaggressions, often racial insensitive comments and behaviors, which is what I just talked about regarding that particular article. Being deeply dismissive of someone else's experience. I do not like the phrase microaggressions because those particular things on a bigger scale are more dangerous than anything because they get cloaked in niceness. And niceness is very insidious. I say this all the time regarding my children. I am not trying to raise nice children. I am trying to raise kind children because kind children come with boundaries and they're not going to put up with nonsense like that, is my hope. So we continue on. Behaviors continue to affect the experience of Black people within wellness and in wellness spaces. To fast forward a little further, now we went through COVID. So COVID increased this disparity because now, and we saw from information that Black communities were getting regarding COVID, how to manage it, from the little pulse oximeter that reads your oxygen saturation levels, that not working correctly. So people who are extremely sick and have lower oxygen levels being sent home and then dying thereafter. These are all things that are documented. I'm not making it up to be hyperbolic. This is what it is. Now, we move further. I want to get to current day and to, as of, I want to say the year 2019. diversities within the NFL where they were essentially saying that the payout for traumatic brain injury for black people, what black players, was less because of just based off of race, saying that because black people were starting at a less intelligent level to begin with, that they deserve less money, which we all know is absolute bullshit. So if you are wondering where this stuff comes from, and this is as recent as I want to say 2019. So if you're wondering where this stuff comes from, we're not blowing smoke up your behind. I don't teach this because I like to. I'm not going I'm not going hunting for let me see how awful my country has been to people that look like me for its entire existence. We want to shed light on these things so we get an opportunity to do and be better as a collective. Like, that's what it's for. That's what it's for. The reason I have the job that I do, the reason I care about people the way that I do, the reason I put this energy into this, even on days when I'm tired and don't necessarily want to, don't want to be the person that bangs the drum, is because of stuff like the statistics that I went over, because of stuff like the article that I saw today in Yoga Journal. And it's not that, I do not think that the people within the comments had ill intent. It is that systemic racism, systemic oppression, none of us, systemic supremacy, none of us get out of this unscathed. All of us are grossly affected by this in some way, shape, or form, whether it be people like me having to learn how to manage it from childhood, or people who are benefiting from it that are unaware that they're benefiting from it, or choose to be unaware that they're benefiting from it, because it's way easier to have it's way easier to have this mantra that you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps. But what do you do when you have no boots? Holla at me when you have answers for that. That's it. So I hope that this talk helped you feel seen in the way in which you as a community helped me feel seen as a teacher, as a studio owner, as a Black woman in general. And with that, the other part that I wanted to let y'all know is that we're giving away 50% scholarships to yoga teacher training. So if you want to become a yoga teacher, we're legitimate about the work that we say that we are doing. I'm unwilling to allow stuff like this keeping me from doing the thing that I know that I'm good at, and keep making space for people who need space made for them. So I hope that this was helpful. Please like and share. I'll keep the video up going forward, and if y'all need anything regarding scholarships and want to know how you can get one, my previous post does give information regarding that. And otherwise, hit me in the DMs. Let me know how y'all felt about this. If it's valuable, if you want me to continue to teach in this way, because I would love to continue to share and pour into you any way I can. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And otherwise, I will catch y'all later. Enjoy the rest of y'all day. Peace out.